Hey everyone, Sarah here from Dirtying the Frame podcast. I have some exciting news to share with you. Dirtying the Frame is now available as an audio podcast. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcast, Apple Pods, Spotify, iHeart. We are there, so if you're sick of watching my face on YouTube, you can listen to my voice in your car.
Hello, DTF listeners and supporters of the pod. Swimmers, thank you to our swimmers. Listen, man, I make mistakes. I cut off the beginning of this pod. You only missed like 2 minutes, but we're talking about Pain Hustlers on Netflix. Tune in. It's one of my favorite pods. You'll enjoy it. Sorry, we're still ironing things out here at the DTF podcast. We need to start drug testing. Enjoy the rest of this, though.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly just try to summarize this so that you kind of can follow along with what, if you haven't seen the movie, what we're talking about. Emily Blunt is a stripper, and she's down on her luck, single mom. She gets hired at this pharmaceutical company where she makes a ton of money selling fentanyl or getting doctors to write the prescription. And she gets like a crazy amount of money and they all are super happy. And she gets this company back on its feet. And then the FBI comes and cracks down on them and sends everybody to jail.
Damn, man, that was, you crushed that. You crushed those cliff notes. Thank you for doing that. Yes, thank you. And I wanted to talk to you about a couple things in the first act, now that we know the summary of the film. There's a couple things all actresses do, like, oh, I'm going to get really in shape for this, or I'm going to play an ugly person if I'm really pretty, you know? Mm-hmm. Be honest. As a successful actress, as my favorite actor, do women always kind of want to be like, I want to play the stripper?
I don't think so. I don't know. I've never heard any of my actor friends tell me that, but maybe.
I feel like a lot of substantial actors have gone through that. I'm going to get in really good shape to play this stripper role, like, you know, like how Jennifer Lopez did in her film.
Oh, yeah.
And Emily Blunt's just in killer shape in this. And I feel like it's kind of a cool challenge for someone that's like, hey, man, it's cool to transform my body to actually live this lifestyle and take stripper classes now that that's became popular. Am I off here or am I just being a dude?
Well, I don't know. I think you're just being a dude. Okay. I think she always looks like that. I think she always looks great.
Okay, all right, I'm way off. I like the tone of this movie. I should tell you my first thoughts here. I say riveting because when I watch movies, especially on Netflix, like we established, on Netflix I'm like, oh, okay, I'm at the 2-minute mark. It's not bad yet. I'm at the 10-minute mark. It's not bad yet. And then Netflix always like 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, this is bad. Fuck, you know? And then in this movie, at like the 20, 25-minute mark, I'm like, wait, I had a good moment in this. Is this movie good?
Yeah.
And I was in from the beginning. I thought the writing was good. I thought off the bat, I could tell, although Emily Blunt just doesn't miss for me. I think for my money, she's one of the best actors, and no matter what film she chooses, because she chooses a lot of different types of films, never puts in a bad performance, no matter what she's in. She's like good money all the time. Even saying that, I thought she was miscast in this. Mm-hmm. And so was Chris Evans. Mm-hmm. Chris Evans has just been on this like pie and this like pillage to like reverse everything Captain America did. He's like, make me play like a guy with an attitude. Maybe I'm a tough guy. Maybe I'm a drug addict. Maybe I'm a killer. Because he just wants to reverse the whole Captain America thing, as like most actors do when they have a prominent role like that. I will say about this movie, what I noticed is that like this is really good acting from people that are just miscast. And I don't know a lot of movies like that. And I still really enjoyed this. I thought it was really well written, actually, too.
Well, it's an interesting point you bring up, because I would say that we've talked a lot about good actors who are cast in the wrong roles.
Yeah.
For example, my go-to, which everybody knows now, but like Brie Larson from the Marvels, like, or Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, whatever the hell. I think she's a good actor, miscast, but I don't think she really pulls it off. So I don't know what the difference is here. I think these two, I totally agree with what you just said. The whole time I was watching it, I was like, this is not Chris Evans. Like, he plays this Boston guy. I think he's supposed to be like a little rough around the edges. You know, he's hitting on the stripper and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm watching him and I'm like, you're not the right person for this movie. Like, they could have cast this guy and it would have been great.
There's a lot of options out there for this guy.
And the same thing with her. You know, she's a little too polished.
Yes, 100%.
As this, like, you know, it would have, if they would have gone more like Florida Project with the look, you know,
100%.
or something like that, a little more authentic. She's just like this perfectly beautiful British woman who's like, Mary Poppins. But even then, they still worked for me, which I know is what you were trying to say. But I think the difference is that Brie Larson doesn't work for me as Captain Marvel, but they pulled it off, and I think that's what you were trying to say, and I completely concur and agree. She's not, like, when I look at Emily Blunt, I don't think white trash at all.
It's tough to get there with Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's like, I don't see this a lot. Most of the time I see people that are cast correctly, but they're just not good. I don't know the last time I saw a movie that had multiple roles, especially the main roles in this that were miscast, but they were still acted well, I compare it to like a lot of hood niggas I know make grilled cheese with an iron.
Is that true?
Yeah, like a jail thing, And I'm like, yeah, it's probably not the best use for an iron, but it still works, and that's what was happening in this. And like, if I know you said it's not a thing, but if like some female actors are like, I want to get in really good shape to play the stripper in this movie, that goes for men being like, I want to play the tough Boston guy one day. And Chris Evans definitely bites on this, and like everybody wants to have the Boston accent, and you don't need to do it, but it was still very enjoyable the way through. I really like the idea of, and some movies have this, and when they do it, I'm already signed on, and tell me how you feel about it. I love someone that doesn't come from this world that goes to dominate a world. I fucking love that. Timbaland said, the music producer, as people don't know, but like, he's like, whenever you're trying to create something, have someone that's old, that's been doing it for a long time, and have someone new that doesn't know what the fuck to do. They're going to bring new ideas in, And I know so many people, of friends, acquaintances, that are hood geniuses, that if they went to an actual established company, they would make them millions of dollars, And I loved the portion of this where like, yeah, she's a stripper, but she's brilliant, she's hardworking, and she's a hustler. Put her in anywhere. Like Jay-Z says, put me anywhere on God's green earth and I'll triple my worth. She's something like that in this,
Yeah.
And not to mention, we kind of skipped over the part where her daughter's facing a health ailment. She has seizures, So she has extra motivation to make this bread. She's not just like, I want to be rich. And I was in, man. I thought this writing was really solid. And at no point, I was like 45 minutes in, I'm like, does a Netflix original movie have me interested? So yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think those are all really good points, and I agree. I think it is cool to watch someone who's her character's hungry, and she's such a good actress. I will say, well, we'll get there, but she's such a good actress. I just think she's great. I also like how when Chris Evans is there, there's a line throughout the movie that they say several times, which is like, she's like, is this legal? This seems, a little weird. And he's like, it's like going 67 into 65.
It's such a great line.
How is my Boston accent? It's like going 60. I don't know. It's not good. It wasn't good.
I would say it's wicked awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, so a great line, and they use it I think they utilize it very well. I'll start kind of at the beginning chunk of the film. I really thought that this worked for me. When you first meet Emily Blunt, as I mentioned before, she's down on her luck, whatever. And she gets called into her daughter's school because her daughter was setting off fireworks or something. And I love this scene so much, and they got me right away with it, so it worked. But she goes into the office and she's talking to the principal, and she's just like, the principal's like, yeah, we got to expel her. She's going to get expelled. And she's like, no, she doesn't. I read the handbook, and it says like, you only have to give her 5 days. Basically, she's like bartering with the principal, and she's like, well, she didn't really put other students in danger because she was across the street. And the principal goes, well, we have to expel her for 5 days, and she goes, how about we make it 1 day? That feels good because it still feels like a punishment, but it's not so intense.
I'm so glad you highlighted this part. Thank you.
Because it just did a really good job for me and I was going to ask you as a writer, because you know more about that. But like it achieved showing us who this woman is right away, what her superpowers are, how cool she is with her daughter, and like all of these character traits within one scene that's not about the movie at all.
Yeah, Sarah, you're fucking nailing this. Your review's better than the movie.
Why do you sound so surprised?
No, I'm just saying it's such a good review, and I'm glad you brought up this scene, because when you're trying to write a film like this, everybody, not everybody, but most of the time, you want to get the audience to know the person as soon as possible. And when you're making a film, you're like at a 2-hour runtime, and you're like, if it takes me 40 minutes to get the audience to know this person, I only have like an hour and 20 minutes to make up for it, to tell the story. And the best thing you can do is get one scene where 2 minutes serves multiple purposes. One, in that scene, great mom, right? She's gonna fight for her daughter, which you just love her. I don't know if that's an important part, but it ends up being important because you realize she's sick and she's a fighter. But two, she has this comfortability hustling. She's hustling this person, which equals into sales. Like what she did was like, when you highlighted that point, where she's like, that works for me. She's assuming a sale.
Yeah.
That's what sales is, you know, like she's asking for it, but the fact that she's already assuming that's going to be okay, she's like, that works for me. Like, who cares about them? It's like, oh, cool. Now in this short scene, and this is why I was surprised by the writing. I'm like, oh, cool. I know who Emily Blunt is. I know what makes her good. I know why she's going to work in this movie for me, you know? I thought it was a really good scene. I appreciate you highlighted it.
And you like her, right?
You like her, yeah.
Yeah, because she's like kind of going against authority a little bit. She's standing up for her kid, like you said. And then when she's walking out with her kid's like, I'm so sorry, Mom. Like, she's like, oh, please. You know, they're just trying to, you know, it's like, we're establishing their bond and their love, and she's like the cool young mom, and they're like best friends. So basically, this movie is Gilmore Girls, which is my favorite. No, but it was. I thought that was really, really a cool way to start it, and it was quick. You know, like the writing was quick. It was bantery. It was back and forth. The editing was quick. So the first, you know, act of the film, we meet her. We meet our main characters, as you always do. She's living with her sister. Her sister like kicks her out. And she works at a strip club, and that's where she meets Chris Evans. And all of this is working for me. Like, then she's like, yeah, buddy, I'll take your job. Just get out of here. Like, get home safe, you know, fuck off kind of a thing. Which, as, you know, someone who's worked in the service industry my whole life, like, use that line a lot. Like, yeah, okay, dude, why don't you make sure you get home safe instead of worrying about taking me home with you, you know? But all of that really works. And then she's like, oh, well, let me try and call this guy. And then the movie really starts kicking because now she's learning the business. She meets the boss. What's this man's name? He's so famous. Andy Garcia.
Yes.
He plays the owner of the company.
Yes.
You know, he's in it a little bit. I'd say like him and Catherine O'Hara are both kind of, you know, on the periph.
What I liked
Please go ahead.
No, what I liked about this part is what's kind of a surprise is like Chris Evans comes off as a douche that's really successful, but when Emily Blunt goes and visits him the next day, his company fucking is failing. They're like less than 30 days from closing the doors. Yeah, their product works, but no one wants to prescribe it because it's dominated by another medicine in that field, and all these other doctors are getting taken care of by these other clinical trials or whatever, you know, other clinical companies, medicine companies. And what's cool about this scene is that Emily Blunt's a hustler. We've already established that. She meets Chris Evans, and he's a hustler. You know, she has a job. He's like asking her about a resume. She has no qualifications to be selling medicine, to do medical sales. And Chris Evans knows he's got to convince his boss, who is Andy Garcia, to hire her. So he starts doctoring up her resume, which if you've ever done a resume, guys, lie.
I was just going to say, this seems like something you would do.
Almost every job that you'll do won't be honest in the things they ask of you in the like job listing. They lie to you. You lie to them. No, he doctors up her resume, and it's like crunch time from the get-go. She has to sell like within a week, right? Or something like that. Do you remember this?
Yes. So they're like, our doors are closing. We're not even hiring anybody, but they her and Chris Evans convince Andy Garcia to let her come and give it a try. So she has a week to make a sale that none of them have been able to do, you know? So it's like, you know, I've been aware of this industry for a while. I don't know why, but this is a thing that happens or did happen. I don't know if it still is, probably, where kind of these prescription companies are giving doctors perks and stuff to go, not Percocets perks, but like, giving them like actual perks to go, like flying them to Hawaii and like paying for things and trips. And someone just got in trouble a judge just recently got in trouble for doing this with a politician, but. So yeah, this is a thing that happens in real life, but I guess in the show, right, this company doesn't have the money to be offering those perks. So all of the doctors are going with the companies who are paying them essentially to write their prescription. And Emily Blunt like you said, you know, you hire someone who doesn't know what they're doing, who's just like new and is going to try something different, comes in and she gets somebody to write her script, and then now we're off to the races, right?
And it's just the perfect combination of Emily Blunt's character of being smart, good with words, charismatic, knowing who she's talking to.
Yeah.
I've done sales a lot in my life, so it's like it's cool how much of the sales aspect there is into this. But she has to know who she's talking to, and she's a good-looking woman, which it's one thing to be a good-looking woman. It's another thing to be a good-looking woman around really mediocre-looking men that are nerds, that are doctors, that are not very outgoing. You know, this is like the prettiest person they've ever seen talk to them in their whole life, the last 10 years. You know?
I will say there's also an interesting part because when she's trying to learn how to do this job well, her daughter's looking up like tips and tricks, or she goes on some message board. Do you remember this scene? So
yes.
Her daughter goes onto a message board and she's like, any, you know, tips for a first-time pharmaceutical rep? And they're all like, show your boobs, put on a push-up bra, wait for the doctor in his office on your knees, you know. And Emily Blunt makes a point to say, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And she doesn't. She wears, if you can see, I don't know if you can see from any of these angles, but kind of the outfit she's wearing. Oh, you can hear. She dresses in these outfits, and I was just looking at this before we started the pod, and I think that the wardrobe people did a really good job with her stuff because they dressed her like a stripper would dress if they were trying to look professional.
100%.
You know,
I love
like
that. Like someone who thinks they look fancy.
Yes, like a lot of dresses like and outfits like this with like the weird sailor buttons and like the, you know, like very like structured things. And she never once was in something that was like revealing, or she wasn't using her looks. And everyone was turning her down. And that part was the only part that I was like, look at this woman's face. Like, no one's saying no to this woman. She's so pretty.
I wanted to add this like a personal anecdote. I don't know if you even know this, Sarah. My mom's a retired physician now. She had her own practice for like a decade and a half. She's a family practitioner. And growing up, about once a month, my mom would, now there's 7 kids in my family, so she'd rotate. But about once a month, she'd be like, Asaad, do you want to go to dinner at this steakhouse with me? Somebody's paying for it. And as a kid, I just didn't know, you know? And this happened so often, and my mom would just rotate the kids she would bring, and it'd be a nice restaurant, a nice steak or whatever. And only to, like now, when I grew older, I worked at her clinic for like a summer, and I started getting the idea of like, oh, medical sales reps come in here, and they're always good looking. They're always sharp dressed females or men that are like in their early 30s that drive nice cars. And to this day, watching this movie made me realize what they were doing. I didn't even make the connection back when I was a kid.
Oh, interesting.
But they were paying for my mom to go to dinner to listen to like a 20 minutes lecture about this new drug. To hopefully sway my mom to prescribing this medicine, you know? Back then when I was a kid, like 8, 9, I just thought it was part of her job that she had to do it. But it was crazy that like watching this movie, I had to make that connection about my childhood, you know?
How interesting. Yeah. I don't know how I learned about it, but it was always kind of like I always knew about it. So then the second part of the film, they are like killing it. And I like this part because it was flashy and fun. And it was exactly what me as a poor person would do if I was breaking in the cash, you know?
Oh, God, yeah.
There's like parties at strip clubs and like they're all dressed up and you can tell they're all fucked up somehow, like on drugs or alcohol or whatever at the parties, not like in day-to-day life. But yeah, it was interesting. And then she is the audience's viewpoint in this, if that makes sense. Like there's always somebody who's representing kind of the viewer's standpoint. So Emily Blunt is going, she keeps asking like, is this cool? Like, is this morally acceptable what we're doing? And they kind of breeze over it. You know, there's always an excuse. There's always and then she gets her mom a job, right? So she gets Catherine O'Hara a job. And this is a key part of the story because Catherine O'Hara plays this like, she plays so many different characters so well, but she's the mom from Home Alone, for those who don't know who that is, just from me saying her name. But she plays this like kind of hippy-dippy, aloof, a little bit white trashy mom who was like a bad mom to Emily Blunt, but Emily's trying to take care of her still. And she gets her a job at the firm. And it's so funny because it's like all these young, hot people and her mom. And I like the montage as well where so once the company starts doing better, they start hiring reps. So Emily Blunt's not the only rep. They're trying to like build out their program and hire more people to sell more of this drug. And I thought that sequence was really cool because it's her and Chris Evans interviewing a bunch of people and doing it in a way that people who are like them, who are hustlers like them, who aren't, well, okay, I see you went to school at Harvard and I see you, did this and that. They're just like, people would lie and she would be like, what's your real story? And they'd hire the people that they were like, oh yeah, you're like this really pretty blonde girl comes in. She's like, I was Miss Hawaiian Tropic. And Emily Blunt's like, no. And Chris Evans like 100%. So,
and they're both right. They're both warranted.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like all of these kind of other hustlers. So they're building this up kind of from, getting scrappy and doing it. And they do, and they're winning and you were happy for them until people start getting addicted to the drug and you kind of start going, ooh, maybe this isn't so great.
Yeah, two things about this. Hopefully I remember. One, I always love a montage scene like this. And just because I think I'm a little bit of a hustler and kind of play outside the rules and kind of have to dip my toes in corporate worlds and kind of combine the two. I've always thought that's the most dangerous person. I've met a couple people that are like street smart and then can navigate a corporate world where I'm like, oh, that person's going to run a company, one day because they have best of both worlds and see it both. But like the cool part in these movies, there's a lot of movies that are similar to this where like a poor person starts rolling in the cash. And the cool part is like, if you've grown up poor, you relate to it so much because you've thought and fantasized about what you're going to do when you get your first $1 million. And so you love seeing it, but it's so effective. The movies get you, and this one, it definitely does because the other shoe's going to drop. So it's effective. You're in it. You're happy for them making money because it feels like you're making the money, but you also know that this is going to come to an end and you don't know how, but you do know it's going to come to an end,
Great point, because another thing I noticed that I really thought added to that, what you were just talking about, kind of like, something's going to happen, is that, as I mentioned before, they keep saying 67 and a 65. And Emily Blunt is now, of course, driving around this Mercedes, like, sports car. And as the pace as like the heat is getting hotter and the pace is getting faster and they're flying closer and closer to the sun, they do all these quick shots and clips of her speeding down the street in this little sports car, right? And so it's like 67 and 65, 67 and 65. And as they start pushing their boundaries more and more, and I know maybe it's cheap, maybe it's an easy thing, but I loved it because I understood it. You hear the sound of her car quite clearly, like, and it's like they're getting more and more dangerous, and they're revving up, and they're going a little faster, and they're going a little faster, and now they're going 80 in a 65, and now you're in danger, right?
Yeah.
And I really liked that. The pacing of the movie led to that. The storytelling led to that. It all kind of felt like it built to a crescendo at the same time, and they did a really, really nice job of portraying that, I thought.
Yeah, and I want to mention what you mentioned. Like, for all intents and purposes, almost every movie I see, the Catherine O'Hara role in this should have ruined the movie.
Yeah, she's
a character actor, but it worked in this.
Yeah.
And that means I thought that was good writing and good directing. Catherine O'Hara's just like amazing.
Yeah.
But she should have ruined this for me. She should have stuck out like a sore thumb because she's too character acting. But she fit into the bedding of this film very well. Very, very well. And yeah, I like knowing what a poor person is like with money. They always say you turn into more of who you are. But it's cool to see all of these people, the ripple effect. So now Chris Evans is making money. Now Andy Garcia, who owns the company, is making money. Chris Evans has a rival at the company that fucking hates him because of they're making money. And then you get to see what Emily Blunt is doing with her money as well. The one thing that probably doesn't work, Sarah, is like, I know you liked the outfits, but Emily Blunt was probably supposed to be like, maybe trash, sorry, trying to dress nice.
Yeah.
She's so regal that when she's in these clothing, I'm like, she just looks like a regal British person.
I was going to say, she kind of looks like Princess Diana, like she dressed like Princess Di. And that's why I was
yeah, like if this was Saoirse Ronan, it would have worked or something, but like Emily Blunt just looks pretty and regal.
Well, that's why I was asking, because I was like, did this take place in the 90s? Maybe she was like trying to dress like Princess Di. I mean, I loved it. And yes, she did look, she's just so pretty. But yeah, I thought it all really worked. I thought it was really cool. And to your point about Catherine O'Hara, yes, acting. I mean, yes, directing. And yes, writing, both good. She towed the line enough that like anyone else playing that character might have been like over the top. And it was a little over the top, but just enough where you're like, she's still grounded. Like she was still grounded enough that she was, you know, so I think that's a credit to her acting skills as well.
This movie made me realize that like what I want so much in film, which is like nowadays we have ensemble casts like this all the time that are just in a bad movie with a bad script.
Yes.
You know, and it proves to me, and yeah, my bar has lowered in terms of what good writing is, but I thought this was a solidly written and solidly directed film. It's amazing how far a film can go when you have put that in the hands of credible and like reliable actors.
100%.
You have Chris Evans, you have Emily Blunt, you have Andy Garcia, you have
Catherine O'Hara.
Catherine O'Hara. You know, and it's like, oh man. For someone that always wants better films and sees so many bad films, I'm like, it feels easy to me, you know? Just, it doesn't have to be a great script. Just give them a solid script and let these actors play, and we feel like we're in good hands. Give me your Rose and Thorn, Sarah.
Well, I have a quick question, and I maybe because the script is good and that's all it takes, and then you get the cast, you know, one person signs on. If it's like Emily Blunt signed on, and then Chris Evans like, okay, cool, I'll do it too, or like, you know what I mean? I think that's kind of the ripple effect, or that the agencies package them or something, but. It is, it does make me wonder when I saw this, I was like, what is it that makes these actors say yes? Because sure. I can't imagine, I imagine that they're taking a bit of a pay cut to do this film. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think this is like Marvel's money, Marvel money. And I want to point out, I will get to my Rose and Thorn, and maybe this is kind of encroaching on it, but at the very end of the film, Liza, Emily Blunt's character, goes and she has to testify in court, and she's cut a deal so that she's going to get no jail time is the deal, right? And so she's incriminated her boss. She's given them, you know, the bigger whales so that she can kind of do no jail time. And she has to go and testify or speak in front of the court before they do her sentencing. And she says, you know, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but this girl, when she has these scenes where she can just act her face off, I'm like, I mean, can I get some of that? Just an ounce of whatever you're taking would be great. But she gets up and she says, like, I'm supposed to come up here and say how I'm not educated. I didn't know. I didn't go to pharmaceutical school. I didn't know that this was happening. She's like, but I knew what I was doing, and I'm responsible for lives of people who've died, and she just really, really nails it. And then I had an interesting thought here, or I thought it was interesting. And I don't want to get too political, but in a capitalistic society like we live in, we preach and we laud and we reward and look up to all these people who are like billionaires and millionaires and making all of this money, and we reward it as a society. We're like, we look up to that. We're like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. How can I do it? And we all think one day maybe I can do it too. It's the American dream, right? But then, so they want you to want more things, to want a brand new car, and to want all these clothes, and to want all this money. Like it's beat into us. But then when we go and get it, we get in trouble. You know what I mean? I'm like, so capitalism kind of preys on the poor. It's like we're fed this dream of like, hey, little poor girl, like you can make it. You can be a great big star. You can be president. And then she did it, and she went after it, and she fucking did it. And now she's getting penalized for it. Any thoughts on that?
No, I'll let you cook.
No, that was it. I thought it was really interesting. It was like at the end of the day, you get in trouble for being sucked into the thing that we're being sold. You know? Yeah,
I mean, I would say, you know, just to push back.
Please.
She was killing people. People were getting addicted to what she was doing. You know, I thought like punishment fit. You know, if we're just going by the guidelines of the law. You know.
I totally agree. That wasn't really my point. Wasn't really like that. Yeah, of course she did something. They were doing something kind of like on the edges of being like illegal and stuff. It was just more of the thought of like you're getting sucked in. You're getting punished for kind of like being sucked into the thing that we've all been sold, which
that's a great point. Like America, there's like no like honest purchase in a capitalistic society. You can always track it back to somewhere that's ill intent.
Oh yeah.
You know, and this is another example of something that like maybe if richer people were doing it, it wouldn't be as illegal, you know? But like if you came from nothing and you were trying to do it, they're going to check your background a little bit more and find a little bit more red tape. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that what you're saying.
And it kind of ties into the theme of the film, right? Like we're selling people this fentanyl. We're selling
Yeah.
people this drug, and then you're getting punished for buying the thing that you're being sold. You know, it's like, anyway, I don't know if
tough.
that.
And like my mom always says, I think maybe this is too much for the podcast, but maybe I align with an atheist. Sorry, don't mean to offend anybody. I don't really know. But like my mom will always be like, well, what do you believe in? And I'm like, I kind of believe in science. And my mom's been sued before, like all physicians are sued if you practice long enough that like some drug doesn't work or tests bad after like 7 years. The FDA didn't do their job. And my mom's like, oh, cool, you believe in science? Science is wrong a lot too. You know, so I don't know. It's like the medicine, I'm glad they did a movie about this, because big medicine and medical cells, it's like, it's corrupt, as all things that have high earning potential end up being corrupt in a capitalistic society. I'm glad this movie got made. It was really interesting for me.
Yeah, made you think. It was entertaining. Great cast, great performances.
Rose and Thorn me.
My rose is Emily Blunt. If you didn't know from watching this podcast for the last 30 minutes, I love watching her on screen. I think she just really, I believe she works hard, but I think she's probably one of those people who just does it effortlessly, and I think she's excellent.
I'm just gonna diddle you with this rose, man. She's had like I say, everything she's in, she just turns in a quality performance every single time. And that's so tough to do. Like most actors are like, hey, I know my wheelhouse. I know I play these roles really well, and I'll stay here, you know? And Emily Blunt does action, she does comedy, she does rom-com, she does like Into the Woods, she does Sicario, she does Pain Hustler, she's one of my favorite movies, Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise. She's an action hero, you know? And everything she does is so quality, and that's so tough when she's taking as many risks as she's taken. I'm like, I was fucking miserable in Jungle Cruise, and I was like, at least I get to watch Emily Blunt on screen.
Same.
You know, because she's like, and she's one of those actors. When I watch Daniel Day-Lewis and people are like, he's the best living actor, and same with Anthony Hopkins, I'm like, yes, they're phenomenal actors, and it looks like they're trying really hard. No, that's not shade, you know? Emily Blunt, obviously she doesn't get considered with like Daniel Day-Lewis and stuff. All of her roles don't seem that effortful. She seems like it's just so like effortless to her, and she's one of those people who is so striking to look at, and yet possesses the talent where they still get lost in the character. And I just think that's really impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's great. And my Thorn is going to step on some toes of my own. So we're going to do my Thorn and my accent police.
Ooh.
Can I get a siren?
I thought this was coming. Governor. Thought it was coming, fish and chips in South Bennington, Governor.
That sounds like a Boston accent, but I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Who stole my Lucky Charms?
I love it. I appreciate the attempt. Your British accent is about as good as Emily Blunt's American accent. I notice her accent in everything she does, and here's what I will say.
Okay.
She is the one person that I'm like, I don't care. I don't fucking care.
Oh, this is big for Sarah.
It's huge.
She gets a pass?
I don't fucking care. Do whatever you want. Sound however you want. Put on a South African accent. Do whatever you want. And it can all sound British, and that's great. There are certain movies where I'm like, oh, you didn't need to put on American, like you didn't need to be American for that. Like just do your regular accent. Yeah. But this movie, obviously she had to be American, and she wasn't American.
She wasn't American at all. And the thing is like Sarah, I love the segment, the accent police, because before we were potting, me and Sarah would watch movies, and Sarah would notice it more than anybody else, you know? But the cool thing about this segment is it's a little bit about geography, kids. Like, when people go say, like, I visited a country, like, hey, I've been to Thailand. It's like, no, you haven't. You went to, like, 3 cities in Thailand. That's a whole fucking country, you know? And sometimes we think of, like, a country a lot smaller than it is. So when you say, like, I'm playing an American...
Right.
Like there is probably 50 to 60 different type of American accents, but the one that's big is like a Midwest American, right? Mm-hmm. And so when British people play Americans, it's like when Americans play, I don't know, when Americans think about the South, we talk with a big drawl. Mm-hmm. You know, like the South has people that speak normal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But when British people play Americans, they go with this, like, what kind of accent would you say it is?
I think she was going for like, were they supposed to be in Florida? Is that where this took place? Yeah, I think she was going for like a Southern accent.
Okay.
Like a generic Southern accent, but her mom didn't have a Southern accent.
Yeah.
Her sister didn't have a Southern accent. I don't know, man. I don't care. She
good.
was great. It was
good.
great.
Yeah.
That was my Thorn because I truly didn't really like, not that this is the best movie I've ever seen, but I couldn't think of a Thorn other than my accent police. What, did you have a Thorn?
You know, I thought if I had to say,
What you do?
I didn't really love the casting of the doctor that kind of got exposed at the end.
Ooh.
He kind of was a little hokey. Like he went from like nerd to like getting all this money. He was wearing Gucci belts, and that's me being nitpicky though. It wasn't that big of a big deal to me, but he kind of stood out a little bit. I do want to bring up a segment really quick, Sarah, that you've kind of glossed over that I'm kind of surprised.
Uh-oh.
You're a liar.
I am?
You didn't like this movie when you first saw it.
Well, yes, I didn't not like it.
She's
Like I
stuttering,
said,
guys.
I was second screen watching this movie.
The first time I saw this movie, I didn't see it.
Yeah, I was on Instagram. So I went back and rewatched it, and I was like, oh, this is really fun and like really good. I think
Okay.
I just thought it was mid at first. I didn't not like it. I thought it was mid at first.
Yeah. I feel you.
Because I was kind of not really paying attention. And then I went back and rewatched it and actually paid attention. And I was like, oh, this is fun. And I can't think of a thing I don't like about it. It's interesting, though, that you did say about the doctor, because when I was really trying, I was like, okay, what's your Thorn? What's your Thorn? Like typing up my notes for this. And I was like, I don't really think I have one. I was like, maybe him. I think he's like a Broadway guy. I think he's if you notice, there's a song where he sings karaoke and he sings it very well. But yeah, I think he's a Broadway guy. So I didn't want to put him in there because I think he was good. I just, I agree. He did stand out like a tiny, tiny bit, but not enough for me to make him my Thorn.
Sarah brings up a good point here, guys. Like, I always never understood how people can read books over and over, but I'm not a big reader. I would say, because I love film so much, a lot of times films dramatically change on a second watch, man. Like, so much of how your day's going bleeds into the movie you're watching. And there's some movies, even of recently, where I feel like I judge movies fairly accurately without my own personality in the way of it. Second screen, like something like Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, it changes dramatically on a second watch. Some a lot better, some a lot worse, but when you're not trying to figure it out and you're just allowed to be in the movie, which happens a lot when you're watching it for a second time, you should try it. You know, it takes up a lot of time, but if you're free, sometimes your favorite movies will change, and sometimes movies you didn't like, you'll be like, maybe I did like that. You know?
Yeah, I tend not to watch any movies more than once because my attention span isn't that great. I'm just like, I've already seen this.
Yeah.
But this really worked for me. My gummy rating
Let's do it.
is 0 gummies.
Damn, the perfect rating.
Yeah, it's not the perfect movie, but
Yeah.
it's a good movie. It's a solid movie.
Sober till it's over in this one.
Sober till it's over. Yeah, you could definitely, but it's not really that kind of a movie where you're like, this sucks and it needs to be more fun, or B, it's a funny movie that'd be more fun if I was high. But yeah, I think it was a really good, solid movie. Well written, very well performed, well directed, well edited. Good job, Netflix. I would also say that, yeah, I think that's all I have to say about it.
No trailer trash, guys, because it was on Netflix.
That's what I was gonna
Let
say.
us know how you guys feel about us watching Netflix movies. You know, I
Reviewing
feel like it's more accessible. I feel like it's fun, so you guys don't have to spend $40 on a movie ticket. What are movie tickets in LA like now? If you go like IMAX 3D.
Oh, IMAX 3D, I have no idea. I couldn't afford it. But I know a regular movie ticket, even during the day, $18 at night, over 20 for one movie ticket.
It's
not to
insane.
mention anything
So
else,
we want to make
parking.
sure that we're not just like only asking you guys to spend money. If you're following along, watch Pain Hustlers if you have a chance. Tell us what you think about it. We're really interested to see what you guys think. We're just two bozos that like are off a whim. It's cool to get feedback from you guys. I did want to ask you, Sarah, if you had to, I always put you on the spot here. If you had to double feature this movie, what would you watch before or after it?
Ooh, it would definitely be like a cool 90s thriller, like Double Jeopardy.
Oh, no kidding. Why?
Just thought of it.
Okay, all right. I got 3.
Oh, well, excuse me.
I know. Boiler Room. I don't know if you've ever watched Boiler Room.
I think I did, and wait, did I?
Bunch of bros that are selling penny stocks. That's
Cool.
like a really people from nowhere trying to enter the corporate world, which I love. 2, which I think is a sleeper, that was also on Netflix, called I Care a Lot with Rosamund
Love that
Pike,
film.
and that was a sleeper, man. That I really fucking love. But it's also about like a strong female lead who I think Rosamund Pike is like evil Emily Blunt. And 3, American Hustle. I think it's pretty similar to like, it feels like a dated group ensemble cast where everybody's trying to get money in similar ways.
Oh
and
man,
falling by
those
the
were
wayside.
great.
Yeah.
You couldn't have given me one of those? You had to
I'm
take all
sorry.
3 and you have me say a dumb one?
I'm sorry. No.
This isn't going to work. You can go. Fire
Guys-
Asaad again.
Guys, as Cyrus said, we're on audio now. We started the other way. We started with video.
Yeah, we started with video, and we're very excited. We're on probably all of your streaming, and wherever you listen to podcasts. We're Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to pods, you should be able to find us. So if you want to listen while you're driving in the car, which is how I like to listen to podcasts, or while you're cleaning or working or doing whatever, now that's available for you as well. And we, are working on getting you some more content for our subscribers. So subscribe so you can get some extra content that nobody else gets. And we'll be back with more interesting and exciting movies. Take a watch of Pain Hustlers. You don't have to leave your couch. And the holidays are coming up, so hopefully you maybe sit down with some loved ones and get to watch it. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And thank you all for being here and spending some time with us. See you next time.